Hello and welcome to Pokemon Lair. Today we'll be unboxing a box of 10 Pokemon cards that I sent to Professional Sports Authority or PSA over a year ago, and I just got it back. They send it to you in this nice little box, all nice and packaged well, so they get to you without any damage. Let me get them unboxed and we'll see what type of grades we have, okay? Our grading review of a 1999 Pokemon game based Ninetales, the Holo number 12 card. Looking at the front of this card, it looks pretty good, but there are some minor scratches on the holographic picture. Looking at our centering from top to bottom and side to side, it looks like it's slightly to the left. And looking at our corners and edges, our corners look pretty good, but our edges do have what they call silvering on them. But besides that, the card looks pretty good. Looking at the back of the card, you can see that the surface looks pretty good. Looking at our centering, the centering isn't too bad. It looks like it might be within tolerance. And looking at our corners and edges, I think they're pretty clean. And because of the scratches and everything, that gives us a grade of excellent, mint 6. Not too bad for a 20-plus-year-old card. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game-based Kadabra, the number 32 card. Looking at the front end of this card, it does look pretty clean and crisp, no damage that I can see. Looking at the centering from side to side and top to bottom, that doesn't look too bad, looks within tolerance. And finally, looking at our corners and our edges, they look pretty clean and nice also. Looking at the back, you can see that the surface looks pretty clean. No damage. Looking at our centering, the centering looks pretty good from top to bottom and side to side. Looking at our corners, the corners aren't too bad, but looking at our edges, you can see that there's some damage on the right side and the bottom side of the card. And that's going to give us a grade of near mint 7. Not too bad. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game based Raichu, a Holo number 14 card. Looking at the front of this card, you can see that the surface looks really nice. The Holo looks really good in this video. Looking at our centering from right to left and top to bottom, that doesn't look too bad. And our corners and our edges, I don't see any damage on them at all. Looking at the back, it looks pretty nice and clean. Looking at our centering doesn't look too bad from top to bottom and side to side. Looking at our edges and our corners, you can see there's a little damage on the upper edge and to both lower corners. And that's going to give us a grade on our Raichu of near mint 8. Not too bad. I like it. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game-based Machoke, a Shadowless, the number 34 card. Looking at the front of this card, you can see that the surface looks pretty good. Looks like maybe a little dirt on the upper right border area, just a fleck of dirt. Looking at the centering is not too bad from top to bottom, but it is quite off to the left. And looking at our edges and corners, they don't look too bad. Moving on to the back, you can see that the surface looks really clean. Looking at our centering, the centering doesn't look too bad from top to bottom or left to right. Moving on to our edges and our corners, you can see that there's some damage on the upper edge of the card, and the upper right and lower left corners have some damage. And that's going to give us a grade of near mint 8. Not too bad, not too shabby. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game based Zapdos, the Holo number 16 card. Looking at the front surface of this card, I don't see a lot of problems with it. It looks pretty good. Looking at the centering though, the centering looks towards the top. And looking at the corners and edges, I don't see much of a problem with any of that. And as we look at the back, you can see that the surface looks pretty good. Looking at our centering looks a little off to the top. And finally, looking at all our edges and our corners, I think this card has a little bit of damage on all 4 sides. And that's going to drop our grade to a very good 3. Oh, wow. I thought it'd actually be better than that. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game-based Magmar, the number 36 card. Looking at this card, looking at the front surface, it looks pretty good. I don't see any damage or bends. Looking at the centering doesn't look too bad. Maybe it's a little to the left. Looking at our corners and edges, you can see there's some edge damage on both of the sides of the card on the front of this card. Flipping the card over, you can look at the back of this card, and it does look pretty good from for the surface of the card. Looking at the centering of the card, it doesn't look too bad from top to bottom and side to side. Finally, looking at our edges and our corners, the upper left corner has some damage, and there's damage on both sides of this card. And that's going to give us a grade of excellent 5. That card's over 20-some years old. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game-based Dragonair, a number 18 card. Let's look at the front surface of this card, and this card looks really good. I don't see any damage, scratches, or bends. Looking at the centering looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. And finally, looking at our corners and edges, I don't see any damage or fraying on any of them. Looking at the back of the card, it looks really clean. I don't see any problem with the surface of the card. Looking at our centering from left to right and top to bottom, I think that looks really good. And finally, looking at our corners and our edges, I think they look really clean, and that's a good thing. And that's going to give us a grade of Gem Mint 10. This card is over 20 years old, and it's a Mint 10. Our grade review of our 1999 Pokemon game-based Poliwhirl, the number 38 card. Looking at the front of this card, the surface looks really good. I don't see any damage, dirt, or bends. Looking at our centering from top to bottom, it's not too bad, probably within tolerance. Looking at it from left to right, it is towards the left. And our center, our edges and our corners look pretty good. I don't see any damage there. Let's check out the back. It looks pretty clean. I don't see any damage there. Looking at our centering, the centering looks pretty good from left to right and top to bottom. And looking at our edges and our corners, hey, they look pretty good too. And with that, we get a grade of Mint 9. I like it for the Poliwhirl. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game-based Electabuzz, the number 20 card. Looking at the front of this card, it looks pretty good. I don't see any bends, scratches, or damage. Looking at our centering from side to side, looks pretty good. From top to bottom, looks a little towards the bottom. And looking at our corners and our edges, I don't see any issues with them at this time. Moving to the back, you can see that the surface looks pretty good. I don't see any damage there. Looking at our centering looks pretty good from top to bottom and side to side. And finally, looking at our edges, they look pretty clean. And our corners, we have a definite noticeable damage to the upper left corner. And that's going to give us a grade of near Mint 7. I thought it could be worse with that damage on that corner. Our grade review of a 1999 Pokemon game-based Raticate, a number 40 card. Looking at the front of this card, it looks really clean. I don't see any damage or any bends. Looking at the centering looks really good from top to bottom and side to side. And our corners or edges are really nice and clean. I don't see any damage there at all. Flipping to the back, you can see that it looks really nice and clean. Our centering looks pretty good from top to bottom and side to side. And continuing on, looking at our edges and our corners, the upper right corner has a little bit of damage, and you can see a little bit of damage along that upper edge. And that's going to give us a final grade of Mint 9. I like it for Raticate.